Millionaire hires lawyer and freezes when his ex-wife shows up with triplets who look just like him. Jonathan Reynolds clutched his chest as he climbed the stairs to the law office. His doctor had been clear about his heart condition and the urgent need to reduce stress, which meant selling his 3 companies as quickly as possible. At 42, he never imagined he'd have to retire so soon. The receptionist led him to the office of Dr. Jessica Williams, one of New York City's most respected corporate attorneys. Jonathan needed someone competent to handle the sale of the empire he'd built over 20 years. "Dr. Jonathan, welcome," said Jessica, an elegant woman in her mid-30s extending her hand. "I've reviewed your preliminary documents. This is truly a complex operation." "That's why I came to you. I need everything settled within 3 months at most," Jonathan replied, settling into the chair as a dull ache pulsed in his chest. Jessica opened the file and began explaining the procedures when Jonathan felt an even sharper tightness in his heart. This time, it wasn't his condition. It was something far worse. "As I was saying, the sales contracts must be meticulously structured to avoid future complications." Jessica trailed off as she noticed Jonathan had gone completely pale. The office door swung open without a knock. Jonathan turned his head slowly, feeling the world collapse around him. Amanda Williams walked in, cradling 3 identical babies in her arms, all dressed in soft pastel outfits, each with a crescent-shaped birthmark on their right forehead, exactly like his. "Amanda," Jessica's voice trembled. "What are you doing here?" "We need to talk, Jessica, especially with him," Amanda said firmly, nodding toward Jonathan despite the squirming infants in her arms. Jonathan staggered to his feet. The triplets were about 1.5 years old, and there was no denying the resemblance. The same brown eyes, the same face shape, and above all, that birthmark, unique to him and his family. "Wait, you 2 know each other?" Jessica looked between them, bewildered. "He's my ex-husband." Amanda took a deep breath. "And this is my client," Jessica added, staring at Jonathan. Silence filled the room. One of the babies began to cry, soon joined by the other 2 in a chorus that pierced the tension. Jessica slowly closed the file, beginning to grasp the situation. "Amanda, can you explain what's going on?" Jessica stood, clearly uncomfortable. 2 years ago, this man left me while I was pregnant." Amanda rocked the babies, trying to soothe them. "Changed his number, his address, blocked every way I could reach him." Jonathan finally found his voice hoarse with shock. I didn't know there were 3. "Of course you knew." Amanda raised her voice, making the babies cry louder. "You were at the ultrasound when the doctor told us it was a multiple pregnancy." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us newcomers a lot. Now, back to the story. Jessica struggled to process the information. Her younger sister had never mentioned that her ex-husband was the businessman Jonathan Reynolds. Amanda had always spoken of a Jonathan, but never revealed his last name or profession. "Amanda, you could have told me," Jessica whispered. "And would you have taken the case? He needs to take responsibility for his children," Amanda said, glaring at Jonathan. "Look at them, Jessica. Look at the birthmark." Jonathan stepped closer, studying the 3 boys. There was no denying it. They had his features, his mannerisms. One even stretched his tiny arm the same way Jonathan had as a baby, according to old photos his mother always showed. "Why only now?" Jonathan asked, still in shock. "Because I only just managed to find out where you work and who you're with." Amanda adjusted the babies in her arms. "I spent 2 years looking for you. You vanished completely." Jessica sat back down, realizing the magnitude of the problem. As a lawyer, she had a client to attend to. As a sister, she had a family to protect. "I need time to process this." Jessica massaged her temples. "Jonathan, I think we should reschedule our meeting." "No," Amanda was firm. "He's going to hear what I have to say. Ethan, Noah, and Liam have the right to know their father." Hearing the names, Jonathan felt a lump in his throat. They were the names they'd chosen together when they still dreamed of having children someday. Amanda had remembered every detail of the plans they'd made. "Amanda, please, let's talk calmly." Jonathan reached toward one of the babies, but Amanda pulled back. "Calmly." Amanda laughed bitterly. I raised 3 children alone while you built your empire. I worked 3 different jobs just to afford diapers and formula. The middle baby, whom Amanda held more tightly, stopped crying and stared intently at Jonathan. It was a heartbreaking scene, even for Jessica, who was trying to maintain her professional composure. "Look, Noah," Amanda whispered to the baby. "This is your daddy." Noah stretched his tiny arm toward Jonathan, who was moved but unsure if he should step closer. The other 2 babies also stopped crying and fixed their eyes on him as if recognizing something familiar. I need a paternity test," Jonathan finally managed to say. "Of course you do," Amanda laughed sadly, "because it's not enough for you to just look at them and see 3 miniature versions of yourself." Jessica intervened. "It's his right, Amanda, and it's their right to have legal recognition." "Fine," Amanda agreed. "But while we wait for the results, you're going to hear everything I've been through." Jonathan sat back down, his heart racing. He didn't know if it was his condition or the emotional weight of the moment, but he needed to calm himself. "When you left me, I was 4 months along," Amanda began, rocking Ethan, who had started crying again. "You said children would ruin your career, that you weren't ready to be a father." "I was scared," Jonathan admitted quietly. "Scared?" Amanda raised her voice again. "I was terrified. 3 babies, Jonathan, and you just disappeared." Jessica watched the scene unfold, torn between her professional duty and her love for her sister. She'd known Amanda since childhood and knew she would never lie about something so serious. "The doctor said it would be a high-risk pregnancy," Amanda continued. "I had to be on bed rest for the last 3 months. My mother helped me, but it was so hard." Jonathan vaguely remembered the conversation about multiples, but at the time, he'd been so focused on a big business deal that he hadn't paid proper attention. Now he realized how selfish he'd been. They were born by C-section 2 weeks early. Amanda looked lovingly at the 3 of them. Ethan came first, then Noah, and finally Liam. Each weighed less than 4 pounds. The emotion in Amanda's voice was unmistakable. Jessica moved closer to her sister, offering silent support. "They spent a month in the NICU." Amanda swallowed back tears. "I spent my days at the hospital, working nights as a cleaner to pay the extra bills." Jonathan felt a pain in his chest that had nothing to do with his heart condition. It was guilt, regret, and deep sorrow for missing his children's first moments. "Why didn't you reach out to my mother?" Jonathan asked. "I did," Amanda replied flatly. "Your mother said you'd told her I'd lost the babies, that it was for the best." Jonathan's world crumbled a little more. He had lied to his own mother, claiming that Amanda had decided not to keep the babies. How could he explain this now? Liam started crying louder, and Amanda tried to soothe him while holding the other 2. Jessica offered to help. "Let me hold him." Jessica reached out. "Thank you." Amanda passed Liam to her sister. "They're tired. They woke up very early today." Watching Jessica with Liam in her arms, Jonathan felt an inexplicable urge to hold his children too, but he knew he didn't have that right, at least not yet. "Amanda, I know I can't undo what I did," Jonathan spoke sincerely. "But I want to do the right thing now." "The right thing?" Amanda shook her head. "The right thing would have been staying when I needed you the most." Ethan, still in Amanda's arms, stretched his little hand toward his father again. This time, Amanda let Jonathan come closer. "Hi, Ethan," Jonathan whispered, gently touching the baby's tiny hand. Ethan gripped his father's finger with surprising strength and wouldn't let go. Jonathan felt an emotion he'd never experienced before, an instant, overwhelming love. "He likes you," Amanda observed, her voice a mix of sadness and hope. Noah, in Amanda's arms, also wanted attention and stretched his little arms toward Jonathan. It was as if all 3 instinctively recognized who he was. Can I hold him?" Jonathan asked hesitantly. Amanda paused for a moment, then passed Noah to his father. The baby immediately calmed in Jonathan's arms, resting his head against his chest. "They can smell you," Amanda explained. "Babies recognize their parents' scent, even if they've never been together." Jonathan was too emotional to speak, Holding his son for the first time was indescribable. Noah looked at him curiously, gently touching his father's face with tiny hands. "He's recognizing you," Jessica remarked, still holding Liam. Just then, the door opened again. The secretary entered without knocking, visibly nervous. "Dr. Jessica, I'm sorry, but there's a woman here insisting on speaking with Mr. Jonathan. She says she's his mother." Jonathan's heart stopped. Mrs. Elizabeth, his mother at 68, was a determined woman who always managed to find him when she wanted to talk. "Let her in," Jonathan sighed. Mrs. Elizabeth hurried into the room, likely worried about her son after his morning doctor's appointment. But when she saw the scene before her, she froze. "Good heavens," she whispered, staring at the 3 babies. Amanda braced for confrontation, but Mrs. Elizabeth approached slowly, tears in her eyes. "Are these," she asked, her voice trembling, "are these my grandchildren?" "Mom," Jonathan started, but Mrs. Elizabeth cut him off. "Jonathan Reynolds, what kind of lie did you tell me?" She glared at him sternly. "You said Amanda had lost the babies." The silence in the room was heavy. Jessica still held Liam, who now watched the newcomer curiously. "May I hold one of them?" Mrs. Elizabeth asked Amanda, humility in her voice. Amanda looked at the mother-in-law she never thought she'd see again. Despite everything, she'd always liked Mrs. Elizabeth. Of course, Amanda motioned for Jonathan to pass Noah to his grandmother. Mrs. Elizabeth cradled her grandson carefully, and Noah immediately smiled at her, a toothless but vibrant grin. "Look at that smile," Mrs. Elizabeth choked up. "Just like Jonathan's when he was a baby." "Mom, I can explain." Jonathan tried again. "Explain what?" Mrs. Elizabeth turned to him, still holding Noah. "That you abandoned this girl while she was pregnant with triplets? That you made me believe my grandchildren didn't exist?" Amanda was stunned by her mother-in-law's reaction. I expected Mrs. Elizabeth to defend her son, but she was clearly on the side of justice. "Mrs. Elizabeth, I don't want to cause trouble," Amanda said politely. "The trouble already exists, dear," Mrs. Elizabeth replied, gently rocking Noah. "And it was my son who caused it." Ethan, who was still in Amanda's arms, started crying again. He wanted attention too. Mrs. Elizabeth moved closer to see her other grandson. "They're identical," she murmured. "The birthmark, the eyes, the shape of their mouths, they're Reynolds through and through." Liam, in Jessica's arms, stretched his little hands toward the new voice. Jessica stepped closer so he could see Mrs. Elizabeth better. "And this one?" Mrs. Elizabeth lightly touched Liam's face. "Just the same." "Ethan, Noah, and Liam," Amanda introduced each one. "What beautiful names," Mrs. Elizabeth smiled through her tears. "Did you choose them together?" "We did when we were still married," Amanda confirmed. "He remembers." Jonathan remembered perfectly. They had spent hours discussing names, making lists, imagining what it would be like to have children someday. Back then, it had seemed like a distant, beautiful dream. "Why did you do this, son?" Mrs. Elizabeth asked, rocking Noah, who had calmed down. "Why did you keep me from my grandchildren?" "I was afraid," Jonathan admitted, feeling like a scolded little boy. "Afraid I wouldn't be a good father, afraid of the responsibility." "And you thought running away would solve it?" Mrs. Elizabeth shook her head in disappointment. Jessica watched the family dynamics unfold, realizing her role as a lawyer was secondary at that moment. This was a family matter that needed to be resolved with love and understanding. "Amanda, forgive me for believing his lies," Mrs. Elizabeth said to her daughter-in-law. "If I had known the truth, I would have helped you from day one." "I understand, Mrs. Elizabeth," Amanda said emotionally. "What matters is that you've met the boys now." Ethan kept crying, and Amanda tried unsuccessfully to soothe him. Jonathan hesitantly stepped forward. "Can I try?" he asked. Amanda handed Ethan to his father. Surprisingly, the baby calmed down immediately in Jonathan's arms, just as Noah had done. "They sense you're their father," Mrs. Elizabeth observed. "Babies have that intuition." Jonathan now held Ethan, who played with his tie. It was impossible not to be moved by the scene. 2 years of absence he could never get back. "Amanda, where do you work now?" Mrs. Elizabeth asked, genuinely interested. 3 different places, Amanda sighed. In the morning at the market, in the afternoon at a clothing store, and at night I clean an office. And who takes care of the boys? Mrs. Elizabeth worried. My mother helps during the day. At night, when I go to work, she stays with them. Mrs. Elizabeth looked at her son with disapproval. While Amanda worked day and night to support the triplets, Jonathan lived comfortably in his luxurious penthouse. That will change now, Mrs. Elizabeth declared. These boys are Reynolds and they'll have everything they deserve. Jonathan felt the weight of responsibility for the first time. It wasn't just about money, it was about presence, love, about being a real father. I want to take the paternity test today, Jonathan announced, so we can settle everything quickly. Good, Amanda agreed. The sooner the better. Jessica, who had been silently observing, finally spoke. I can schedule the test for this afternoon. I know a lab that does urgent tests. Perfect, Jonathan said, still holding Ethan. And then we need to talk about everything. About the boys' future, about how I'll be part of their lives. It's not just about money, Jonathan, Amanda made it clear. They need a present father. I know. Jonathan looked at Ethan, then at Noah in his mother's arms, and at Liam, whom Jessica still held. I want to be that father. Mrs. Elizabeth smiled for the first time since entering the room. She saw a genuine change in her son, real emotion as he held his grandchildren. Amanda, would you join us for dinner tonight? Mrs. Elizabeth asked. After we do the test, I want to get to know my grandchildren better. Amanda hesitated. It was hard to trust again after so much pain. You don't have to decide now, Jonathan said gently. I know I need to earn back your trust. Ethan began to yawn in his father's arms. The movement was so delicate and perfect that Jonathan felt his heart tighten with emotion. They're getting sleepy, Amanda observed. They usually nap around this time. Should I call a taxi? Jessica offered. To take you to the lab? I'll drive, Jonathan volunteered. I have a bigger car, safer for the kids. Amanda laughed dryly. Do you even have a car seat? Jonathan realized just how unprepared he was to be a father. He didn't even have the basic safety equipment. I'll buy them now, he said firmly. Whatever they need. It's not just about buying things, Jonathan, Amanda sighed. Being a father is so much more than that. I know, Jonathan looked deeply into his ex-wife's eyes, and I want to learn. I want to be truly present. Mrs. Elizabeth watched her son with pride. Finally, she saw the maturity she had always hoped for. I'll go with you to the lab, she announced. I want to be part of everything. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. Jessica organized the papers on the table, realizing the business meeting had turned into something far more important. Jonathan, about selling the companies, she said. Should we reschedule for next week? Actually, Jonathan paused to think. I might need to reconsider all of it. What do you mean? Jessica asked. If I'm going to be a father to 3 kids, I need financial stability. Maybe now isn't the time to retire completely. Amanda looked at him in surprise. She hadn't expected him to change his plans for the children. But what about your health? Mrs. Elizabeth worried. I'll take better care of myself, Jonathan promised, but my kids need security. Ethan had fallen asleep in his father's arms, breathing peacefully. Noah was dozing in Amanda's lap, and Liam was nearly asleep in Jessica's arms. They trust you, Amanda observed, watching Ethan sleep peacefully. It's amazing. It's in their blood, Mrs. Elizabeth murmured. They recognize their father's blood. Jonathan looked at Amanda, seeing a mix of hope and fear in her eyes. He knew he had a long road ahead to rebuild trust. Amanda, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, he said softly, careful not to wake Ethan. But I swear I'll spend the rest of my life making up for those 2 lost years. I don't want compensation, Amanda whispered back. I want a present father for my children. Our children, Jonathan corrected gently. Amanda smiled for the first time since entering the room. A small but genuine smile. Let's do the test soon, she said, so we can move forward. Jessica put the documents away in the drawer. knowing this afternoon was about family, not business. "I'll handle everything," she offered. "I'll call the lab now." As Jessica made the calls, Mrs. Elizabeth approached Amanda. "Sweetheart, do you have pictures of them when they were born?" she asked warmly. "I have so many," Amanda smiled. "I recorded everything on my phone." "I'd love to see," Mrs. Elizabeth said. "I've missed so much with them." Amanda took out her phone and began showing the photos. Mrs. Elizabeth was moved seeing her grandchildren in the NICU, so tiny and fragile. "My God, they were so little," she whispered, "and you took care of everything alone." "My mom helped me a lot," Amanda showed more photos. "They grew up so fast." Jonathan listened to the conversation while holding Ethan, feeling increasingly guilty for missing such important moments. "Can I see too?" he asked humbly. Amanda hesitated for a moment, then turned her phone so he could look. The first photos showed 3 tiny babies covered in wires and medical equipment. "How long were they in the NICU?" Jonathan asked, emotional. 32 days, Amanda replied. "Ethan came out first, then Liam, and Noah was the last." "Why did Noah take longer?" Jonathan worried, looking at the baby sleeping in Amanda's arms. "He had a little trouble breathing on his own," Amanda explained, "but he's perfect now." Jonathan looked at Noah with even more tenderness. His son had fought to survive while he hadn't even known they existed. "Amanda, do you have any videos of them?" Mrs. Elizabeth asked. "So many," Amanda smiled. "Want to see their first steps?" Amanda opened a video on her phone. The 3 babies appeared in a small room, Ethan taking his first wobbly steps while Noah and Liam clapped from the floor. "When was this?" Jonathan asked, his voice thick with emotion. "Last month," Amanda answered. "Ethan was the first to walk. The other 2 are still trying." Seeing his son's first steps through a phone video was devastating for Jonathan. He should have been there, should have cheered, should have witnessed that moment with his own eyes. "Do they say anything yet?" Mrs. Elizabeth asked. "Ethan says Mama and Dada." Amanda glanced at Jonathan. "Noah says Mama, and Liam just babbles for now." "Ethan says Dada?" Jonathan's heart swelled. "He heard other kids saying it and started too," Amanda explained. "I always asked where his daddy was." Jonathan's guilt grew with every revelation. His children were already saying Dada without even knowing him. "And what did you tell them?" Jonathan asked. "That daddy was working far away," Amanda said simply. "I didn't want them growing up angry." Mrs. Elizabeth touched Amanda's arm, admiring her maturity and kindness. "You're a wonderful mother," she said sincerely. Jessica finished her calls and joined the group. "I scheduled the tests for 3 this afternoon," she announced. "The lab will test all 3 babies." "How long for the results?" Jonathan asked. 24 hours tops," Jessica replied. "But it's just a formality. Anyone can see they're your sons." Jonathan looked down at Ethan sleeping in his arms. It was true. The resemblance was undeniable. "Amanda, would you like to have lunch with us?" Mrs. Elizabeth asked. "Before we go to the lab?" Amanda glanced at her children. Noah and Liam were also asleep, and it seemed like a good time to talk calmly. "Sure," she agreed, "but they'll wake up hungry soon." "Are you still breastfeeding?" Mrs. Elizabeth asked with genuine interest. "Only Liam," Amanda answered. "Ethan and Noah eat solids now." "I have everything in the car," Amanda continued. "Diapers, bottles, food. I always come prepared." Jonathan realized how inexperienced he was with the practical side of caring for babies. Amanda had it all figured out after 2 years of practice. "Can you teach me?" he asked humbly. "How to change diapers? How to feed them?" Amanda looked at him in surprise. She hadn't expected him to take an interest in the hands-on parts of fatherhood. "Of course," she replied. "They'll need their dad for everything." Mrs. Elizabeth smiled, watching her son's willingness. Maybe this broken family could still be mended. "Let's head to the restaurant then," Jessica suggested. "I know a great place for kids." They gathered their things to leave. Jonathan carried Ethan carefully, Amanda held Noah, and Jessica took Liam. Mrs. Elizabeth helped by carrying the children's bag. In the elevator, Ethan woke up and stared at Jonathan with curiosity. He didn't cry, just studied his father's face intently. "Hi, Ethan," Jonathan whispered. "Daddy's here now." Ethan smiled, a toothless grin that melted Jonathan's heart. It was the first time he'd seen one of his sons awake and happy in his arms. "He likes you," Amanda observed. "And I'm completely smitten with him," Jonathan admitted, emotional. When they reached the lobby, Jonathan realized he'd need to buy a bigger, safer car to transport 3 kids. His life was about to change completely. "Amanda, where do you live?" Mrs. Elizabeth asked as they waited for the car. "In a small apartment in Astoria," Amanda replied. 2 bedrooms, the boys share one. Jonathan felt even worse imagining his 3 kids crammed into a tiny room while he lived alone in a 5-bedroom penthouse. "That's going to change," he murmured, more to himself. "I don't want your pity, Jonathan," Amanda said firmly. "I want responsibility." "I know," he met her gaze, "and you'll get it." The restaurant was cozy and kid-friendly. They got a corner table where the babies could be more comfortable. Noah woke up in Amanda's arms and immediately looked for food. She opened the bag and pulled out a bottle. "Can I feed him?" Jonathan asked. Amanda hesitated, then handed him the bottle and helped position Noah properly. Seeing her son in his father's arms, drinking calmly, was a scene she'd always dreamed of. "He likes you," Amanda remarked. "How do you handle all 3 alone?" Jonathan asked, amazed. "You adapt," Amanda smiled tiredly. "When there's no choice, you figure it out." Mrs. Elizabeth watched the scene with emotion. Finally, she saw her son stepping into fatherhood, even if 2 years late. Liam woke in Jessica's arms and started crying. Amanda offered to take him, knowing he needed to nurse. "Excuse me," she stood. "I need to feed him." "Make yourself comfortable," Jessica said. "It's quiet here." Amanda settled into a comfier chair and began nursing Liam. Jonathan watched, fascinated. He'd never witnessed that bond between mother and child. "It's beautiful," he murmured. "Exhausting too," Amanda laughed, "especially when all 3 wake up at night wanting different things." "I can help now," Jonathan offered. "We can split the nights." Amanda gave him a skeptical look. Talk was easy, action wasn't. "Do you know how to change a diaper?" she asked. "No, but I can learn," he admitted. "And wake up at 3 a.m. when they're crying?" "I'll learn that too." "And bathe them without letting them slip?" "Amanda, I get it." Jonathan chuckled nervously. "I'm starting from scratch." "It's not just learning," she explained as Liam nursed. "It's showing up every day, even when you're tired, even when you've got other things to do." "I want to be there," Jonathan said earnestly. "I want to make up for lost time." Ethan, still in Jonathan's arms, began squirming. Mrs. Elizabeth offered to help. "He probably wants to play," she said. "Ethan's always been the most active of the 3. "How do you know?" Jonathan asked. "Amanda told me," Mrs. Elizabeth smiled. "We talked a lot on the phone after you left the office." Jonathan was surprised. He hadn't known Amanda and his mother had reconnected. "You 2 spoke?" he asked. "Your mom called right after we left," Amanda explained. "She wanted to know if the boys were okay." Jonathan was moved that his mother had immediately worried about her grandsons. "What else did you talk about?" "About everything," Mrs. Elizabeth answered. "About how they were born, how they grew, their personalities. Each one has a very different personality," Amanda added. "Ethan is the smartest and most energetic. Noah is calmer and more observant. Liam is the most affectionate and clingy." Jonathan paid attention to every detail, trying to get to know the children he'd missed the first years of. "And what do they like to play with?" he asked. "Ethan loves balls," Amanda smiled. "Noah likes books, even though he can't read yet. And Liam adores music." "Just like their father," Mrs. Elizabeth observed. "Jonathan always loved sports. Noah reminds me of you when you were little, always begging me to read to you, and Liam, you've always been musical." Jonathan was moved to realize his children had inherited his traits, even without growing up with him. "Do they have any favorite toys?" Jonathan continued asking. "Ethan has a blue teddy bear he won't let go of," Amanda said. "Noah sleeps with a picture book, and Liam loves a rattle that plays music." "Where are those things?" "At home," Amanda replied. "They get restless without their favorite items." Jonathan thought about how he could provide everything his children needed. It wasn't just about objects, but creating a welcoming environment where they'd feel at home. "Amanda, can I ask you something?" Jonathan hesitated. "Of course." "Do you have a boyfriend?" The question created an awkward silence at the table. Jessica and Mrs. Elizabeth exchanged glances. "When would I have time to date, Jonathan?" Amanda laughed dryly. "I work 3 shifts and take care of 3 babies. I'm sorry," Jonathan regretted asking. "It wasn't appropriate." "But since you asked, I'll answer." Amanda adjusted Liam, who had just finished feeding. "No, I don't have a boyfriend. And even if I did, any man would have to accept that my children come first." "Our children," Jonathan corrected again. "Not yet." Amanda was firm. "You still have to prove you're a real father." The answer hit Jonathan like a punch. He understood that being a biological father was different from being one in practice. Ethan started crying in Jonathan's arms, who tried unsuccessfully to calm him. "He must be hungry," Amanda said. "You can hand him to me." Jonathan passed Ethan over, feeling incompetent. Amanda took another bottle from her bag and gave it to Ethan, who immediately settled. "How do you always know what they want?" Jonathan asked, amazed. 2 years of practice," Amanda replied. "Every cry has a different meaning. Can you teach me that too?" "If you're really willing to learn," Amanda looked him in the eye. "But it's not something you pick up in a day." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing, Mrs. Elizabeth took Liam in her arms and began talking to him softly. The baby smiled at his grandmother, clearly loving the attention. "He's very social," Mrs. Elizabeth remarked. "Likes everyone." "That's just how Liam is," Amanda agreed. "Never wary of strangers." "And the other 2? "Ethan is more particular," Amanda explained. "Takes him a while to warm up to new people. Noah is shy at first but opens up later." Jonathan absorbed every detail, building a mental map of his children's personalities. "Do they sleep well at night?" he asked. "They do now," Amanda sighed. "But until they were 6 months old, it was hell. They'd wake up at different times, multiple times a night." "And you faced that alone?" "My mom helped when she could," Amanda said. "But she works too." Jonathan pictured Amanda waking up repeatedly at night, tending to 3 crying babies with no one to help. The guilt was almost unbearable. "Amanda, about the money," he began. "I don't want charity." Amanda cut him off. "It's not charity," Jonathan was firm. "It's responsibility. You spent 2 years supporting my children alone. I need to make up for that." "Children aren't an investment you just pay off and that's it," Amanda explained. "They need presence, care, love." "I know," Jonathan sighed, "but they also need material security." "That's true," Mrs. Elizabeth agreed. "Amanda, you can't refuse the help they deserve." Amanda thought for a moment. She was proud, but she was also a mother and wanted the best for her children. "All right," she conceded, "but on one condition." "What?" Jonathan asked. "You'll actually be part of their lives, not just the father who sends money." "I promise," Jonathan said solemnly. Ethan finished his bottle and started squirming in Amanda's lap, wanting to play. She placed him in a high chair the restaurant provided. "He likes sitting like this," Amanda explained. "He can see everything around him." Ethan watched the restaurant's activity with curiosity, kicking his little legs happily. "He's very clever," Jonathan remarked. "Too clever," Amanda laughed. "He can already open drawers and doors. I have to keep an eye on him all the time." "What about Noah?" "Noah is quieter." Amanda glanced at her son, peacefully sleeping in Jessica's arms. "He likes to observe before acting." "They're so different," Jonathan marveled. "Born on the same day, but 3 completely different people," Amanda agreed. Liam began yawning in Mrs. Elizabeth's arms, clearly sleepy. "Do they sleep at the same time?" Mrs. Elizabeth asked. "Usually, yes," Amanda replied. "I set a very strict routine. Sleeping, eating, playing, everything has a schedule." "How did you manage to set a routine with 3 babies?" Jonathan asked, impressed. "Necessity," Amanda answered simply. If I didn't organize everything, I'd lose my mind. Jonathan admired Amanda's strength and discipline more and more. In 2 years, she had done what he wasn't sure he could have managed. Amanda, can I ask you something? Mrs. Elizabeth said gently. Of course. Do you still love my son? The question took everyone by surprise. Amanda stopped eating and looked at Mrs. Elizabeth, then at Jonathan. Mrs. Elizabeth, she began. You don't have to answer, Jonathan interrupted, clearly uncomfortable. No, Amanda was firm. I'll answer. She took a deep breath before continuing. I love Jonathan very much, she said calmly, but the man I loved wouldn't have abandoned his pregnant wife, so maybe I never knew the real Jonathan. The answer was honest and painful. Jonathan lowered his head, acknowledging the truth in her words. And now, Mrs. Elizabeth pressed, would you give him a second chance? Now I'm a mother, Amanda replied. My priority is my children. If Jonathan proves he's a present and responsible father, maybe we can be a family, but that has nothing to do with romance. Jonathan understood he'd have to earn back not just Amanda's trust as a mother, but as a woman too. It would be a long road. That's fair, he said humbly. I need to prove I've changed. Ethan started throwing food on the floor, clearly bored. Amanda stood to clean the mess. Let me help, Jonathan offered. Can you hold Liam? Amanda asked. He's sleeping, but I need to clean up Ethan. Jonathan carefully took Liam from Mrs. Elizabeth. The baby was fast asleep, breathing softly. It was the first time Jonathan had held one of his children while they slept. He's so light, Jonathan murmured. They were born weighing less than 4 pounds each, Amanda commented, while wiping Ethan down. Now they're at a normal weight, but they're still small. Do they see the pediatrician regularly? Jonathan asked. Every month, Amanda confirmed. Because of their prematurity, the follow-ups are stricter. Can I come with you to the next appointment? If you want. Amanda stopped cleaning and looked at him. The next one is on Tuesday. I want to, Jonathan said without hesitation. I want to be involved in everything related to them. Mrs. Elizabeth smiled at her son's genuine interest. It was the first time in a long while she'd seen him prioritize something over work. Jonathan, Jessica interjected, about your commitments this week. Cancel anything that isn't urgent, Jonathan replied without taking his eyes off Liam. My priority now is my children. Amanda was surprised by his answer. Throughout their marriage, work had always come first for Jonathan. Are you sure? She asked. Absolutely. Jonathan looked at her. I've missed 2 years of their lives. I won't lose another day. Ethan had finished eating and now wanted out of his high chair. Amanda picked him up, and he immediately stretched his little arms toward his father. He wants to go to you, Amanda observed. Can I? Jonathan asked, hesitant to wake Liam. Of course. Liam's a heavy sleeper, he won't wake up. Jonathan took Ethan while keeping Liam in his other arm. Carrying 2 babies was awkward, but he was determined to learn. Hi, Ethan, he whispered. Daddy's here. Ethan smiled and touched his father's face with tiny hands. It was a moment of pure, simple connection. He really likes you, Amanda remarked, touched. And I already love him so much, Jonathan replied, kissing Ethan's forehead. Mrs. Elizabeth stood to help, noticing Jonathan was struggling with 2 babies. Let me take one, she offered. No, Jonathan was stubborn. I want to hold them both. Jonathan, be practical, Amanda laughed. You'll drop one of them. Reluctantly, Jonathan handed Ethan to Mrs. Elizabeth, keeping Liam in his arms. It's harder than it looks, he admitted. That's why I need so much organization, Amanda explained. With 3, you have to be very efficient. Noah woke up in Jessica's arms and immediately searched for Amanda with his eyes. When he saw her, he smiled and reached out. He always looks for me when he wakes up, Amanda said affectionately, taking Noah. What about me? Jonathan asked hopefully. Will he get used to me? He will, Amanda assured him. But it takes time. They need to feel safe with you. How do I make them feel safe? By being present, Amanda replied. Every day, not just on weekends. Jonathan understood the hint. Many separated parents only saw their kids on weekends, treating fatherhood like a hobby. "I want to see them every day," he declared. "And how will that work?" Amanda asked practically. "I live in Astoria, you live on the Upper East Side." "I'll move," Jonathan answered without hesitation. "Move?" Amanda was surprised. "I'll move closer to you," Jonathan explained. "Or you move closer to me. Whatever's best for the kids." Amanda fell silent, processing the offer. She hadn't expected Jonathan to be willing to make such drastic changes. "You don't have to decide now," Jonathan continued. "But I want you to know I'll do anything for our children." Mrs. Elizabeth swayed Ethan, who played with his grandmother's necklace. It was a scene of pure family harmony. "You two need to talk calmly about the future," she said. "But what matters is that everyone's together now." Jessica checked her watch and realized it was time to go to the lab. "Everyone, it's already 2:30, she announced. "We need to head to the lab." "Let's go," Amanda agreed, gathering the baby's things. Jonathan stood up, still holding Liam, who remained fast asleep. "He wouldn't wake up even in an earthquake," Amanda laughed. "Just like his father," Mrs. Elizabeth remarked. "Jonathan's always been a deep sleeper." They headed to the lab, a modern clinic in the city center. The paternity test would be quick and painless, just a saliva sample. At the reception, Jonathan filled out the forms, while Amanda kept the 3 babies organized. Ethan and Noah were awake and curious about the new surroundings. "Reynolds family," the nurse called out. Hearing Reynolds family made Jonathan's heart race. It was the first time all 5 of them were being treated as a family. "That's us," Jonathan replied, holding Liam. "We'll do the collection for the children first," the nurse explained. "It's quicker and less uncomfortable for them." The procedure was simple. Ethan and Noah didn't even realize they were being tested. They thought it was just a game. Liam slept through the whole thing. "Now it's your turn," the nurse said to Jonathan. While Jonathan did his part of the test, Amanda watched how anxious he was. It was obvious the babies were his, but she understood the legal need for the test. "Results will be ready by tomorrow at 5 in the afternoon, the nurse informed them. "You can pick them up in person or receive them by email." "In person," Jonathan preferred. "I want to be here when it's officially confirmed that I'm their father." As they left the lab, Ethan started crying from hunger. Amanda opened her bag to grab a bottle, but Ethan didn't want it. "He's tired of the bottle," Amanda explained. "He can eat baby food now." "Let's go somewhere we can give him proper food," Jonathan suggested. "My place is nearby," Amanda hesitated. "Would you like to come over?" Jonathan was moved by the invitation. It was the first time Amanda had invited him to see where the children lived. "We'd love to," Mrs. Elizabeth answered for everyone. Amanda's apartment was small but very cozy. It was impeccably clean and organized, with toys scattered across the living room floor. "This is where they grew up," Amanda said, slightly embarrassed by the size of the space. Jonathan looked around, imagining the kids playing in that environment. There were photos of them at every age, from newborns to the most recent ones. "Can I see the pictures?" he asked. "Of course." Amanda led him to a wall covered in photos. "This is their story in pictures." Jonathan was emotional seeing his children's milestones: first bath, first smile, first Christmas, first solid food. Moments he should have been there for. "They're beautiful," Mrs. Elizabeth remarked, looking at the photos with tears in her eyes. Ethan kept crying, so Amanda went to the kitchen to prepare baby food. Jonathan followed, wanting to learn. "Can I help?" he offered. "You can hold Noah," Amanda said. "He gets fussy when Ethan cries." Jonathan picked up Noah and carried him away from the noise. Surprisingly, Noah calmed down in his father's arms. "You've got away with them," Jessica commented. "They make it easy," Jonathan smiled, watching Noah play with his tie. In the kitchen, Amanda warmed the baby food and organized things. Mrs. Elizabeth offered to help. "Amanda, dear, can I ask you something?" Mrs. Elizabeth said gently. "Of course. What do you expect from Jonathan as a father?" Amanda stopped stirring the food and thought about her answer. "I want him to love the children unconditionally," she said. "To be there for the hard moments, not just the fun ones. to be patient, loving, and consistent. And as a person? Mrs. Elizabeth pressed. What do you expect from him as the father of your children? That he's honest, Amanda said plainly. That he doesn't make promises he can't keep. That he doesn't disappear again when things get tough. Mrs. Elizabeth understood that Amanda was willing to give her son a chance, but cautiously. He's changed, Mrs. Elizabeth said softly. I see an emotion in his eyes I've never seen before. I hope so, Amanda sighed, because my children don't deserve to be abandoned twice. Ethan finally settled down when Amanda returned with the baby food. She sat in a chair and began feeding him. Can I try? Jonathan asked. Jonathan asked, Are you sure? Amanda laughed. He's pretty messy when he eats. I want to learn everything, Jonathan insisted. Amanda handed him the spoon and showed him how to feed Ethan. It was more complicated than it looked, since Ethan spat out half the food. That's just how it is at first, Amanda laughed, watching Jonathan covered in baby food. It takes them a while to learn how to swallow. He's actually eating something, Jonathan celebrated when Ethan swallowed a spoonful. Congrats, Dad, Amanda said without thinking, then realized what she'd said. The silence that followed was heavy with emotion. It was the first time Amanda had referred to Jonathan as the kid's dad. Sorry, she corrected herself. It's not official yet. But it's already real, Jonathan said emotionally. The paperwork will just confirm what we already know. Noah, in Jessica's arms, started crying too. It was his turn to eat. I'll feed Noah, Mrs. Elizabeth offered. Let me make up for lost time with my grandsons. Amanda prepared another bowl of baby food and handed it to Mrs. Elizabeth, who cradled Noah lovingly. Come here, my little grandson, she said softly. Grandma's going to feed you. Noah studied Mrs. Elizabeth curiously before accepting the food. He was neater than Ethan, eating more tidily. He's better behaved, Mrs. Elizabeth observed. Noah's the diplomat of the family, Amanda chuckled. He's always been the easiest to handle. Liam had woken up and was watching everything intently from Jessica's arms. He wasn't eating solids yet, just nursing. Is Liam still only nursing? Jonathan asked, still feeding Ethan. Mostly, Amanda confirmed. I've started introducing some fruits, but very slowly. And how do you find time to take care of yourself? Mrs. Elizabeth asked, concerned for her daughter-in-law. I don't get much, Amanda admitted. My mom watches them for a few hours on Sundays so I can rest. Jonathan felt even worse, imagining Amanda without time to even rest properly. That's going to change, he promised. You'll have time for yourself to rest, to be more than just a mom. Thank you, Amanda smiled tiredly. Sometimes I forget who I was before becoming a mother. You were an amazing woman, Jonathan said tenderly. And you still are, only now you're also an extraordinary mother. The compliment caught Amanda off guard. It had been so long since someone praised her as a woman, not just as a mom. Ethan finished eating and started yawning. The day had been long for the babies. They're going to nap now, Amanda explained. It's their afternoon rest. Can I watch them sleep? Jonathan asked. I want to see the room where they've grown up. Amanda hesitated, then agreed. The nursery was small but charming, with 3 cribs lined up and toys neatly arranged on shelves. This is it, Amanda said, slightly embarrassed. I know it's tight for 3 kids. It's perfect, Jonathan said sincerely. You've made a loving home for them. Amanda placed Ethan in the middle crib, where he settled with his blue teddy bear. Noah went to the right crib with his picture book, and Liam to the left with his musical rattle. Each has their own quirks, Amanda whispered. Without these, they can't fall asleep. Jonathan watched his 3 children settling into their cribs, each with their own unique personality, despite being triplets. They're incredible, he murmured. They're my life, Amanda said emotionally. Our life, Jonathan gently corrected. Amanda didn't object this time, letting the words hang in the air. They returned to the living room where Mrs. Elizabeth and Jessica were waiting. The apartment was quiet, just the soft sounds of the babies settling down. They fell asleep fast, Mrs. Elizabeth remarked. It's been a big day for them, Amanda explained. Meeting new people, breaking routine. And tomorrow? Jonathan asked. When do we get the test results? Tomorrow we'll start planning the future, Amanda replied. But first you need to understand that being a father is a daily commitment. I understand, Jonathan said seriously, and I'm ready for that commitment. Mrs. Elizabeth stood up to leave, sensing that Amanda and Jonathan needed to talk alone. Jessica, let's give them some space, she suggested. You don't have to go, Amanda said politely. We do, Mrs. Elizabeth insisted. You two have a lot to figure out. After Mrs. Elizabeth and Jessica left, Amanda and Jonathan were alone in the living room. The silence was thick with anticipation and nervousness. Amanda, Jonathan began, I know I have a lot to make up for. It's not about making up, Amanda interrupted. It's about being present from now on. I want to be, Jonathan said firmly. I want to wake up in the middle of the night when they cry, change diapers, give baths, teach them to walk. That all sounds beautiful in theory, Amanda sighed. But the reality is different. It's exhausting, frustrating at times. It's not always as magical as it seems. I know, Jonathan stepped closer, but I want to experience it with you. I want to be a real father. Amanda looked into his eyes, searching for sincerity. She saw something different in Jonathan, a maturity that hadn't been there before. All right, she agreed. We'll try, but slowly, respecting the boy's pace. Whatever you say, Jonathan accepted. What's the first step? You can come for dinner tomorrow, Amanda suggested, after we get the test results. Sounds perfect, Jonathan smiled. Should I bring anything? Just yourself, Amanda replied. They need to get used to your presence. From the nursery came a soft whimper. Liam had woken up. Here comes the chain reaction, Amanda laughed. When one wakes up, the others follow. Can I help? Jonathan offered. You can pick up Liam. Amanda headed to the nursery. He probably wants to nurse. Jonathan entered the nursery and approached Liam's crib. The baby stopped crying when he saw him, staring curiously. Hi, Liam, Jonathan whispered. Daddy's here. Liam smiled and reached out his tiny arms. Jonathan lifted him carefully, feeling that overwhelming emotion again. He's so small, Jonathan murmured. But growing fast, Amanda said, preparing to nurse. Soon he'll be running around the house like Ethan. Jonathan pictured all three boys running through the house, playing, growing up. It was a future he desperately wanted to be part of. Amanda, he said as he handed Liam to her, thank you for giving me this chance. It's not a chance, Amanda corrected. It's their right to have their father present. Still, thank you, Jonathan insisted. Amanda settled in to nurse Liam, and Jonathan watched the intimate moment between mother and son. It's beautiful, he remarked. It's natural, Amanda replied. Soon you'll have your own special moments with them. I hope so, Jonathan said hopefully. You will, Amanda assured. They already like you. It's amazing how quickly they've adjusted. Do you think they know I'm their father? I think so, Amanda smiled. Babies are more intuitive than we realize. Ethan stirred in his crib and began to fuss. Jonathan offered to pick him up. Go ahead, Amanda agreed. He probably just wants to be held. Jonathan lifted Ethan, who immediately snuggled into his arms. It was incredible how naturally comfortable the boys were with him. Hi, little man, Jonathan whispered. Daddy's here now, and I'm not leaving again. Ethan looked up at his father with big, curious eyes, as if understanding every word. He has your eyes, Amanda observed. And your smile, Jonathan added, watching Ethan grin toothlessly. Noah had woken too, but stayed quiet in his crib, just observing the movement around him. Noah's the most observant, Amanda explained. You like to understand everything before reacting. Can I hold him too? Jonathan asked. Of course, but you'll have to juggle, Amanda laughed. Jonathan managed to hold Noah while keeping Ethan in his other arm. It was awkward, but he was determined to hold both sons. That won't work, Amanda laughed. Yes, it will, Jonathan insisted, trying to balance both babies. Ethan found the situation funny and started laughing, a sweet baby laugh that melted Jonathan's heart. He's laughing at me, Jonathan said, moved. He likes you, Amanda confirmed. All three do. Noah smiled too, shyer than Ethan, but clearly comfortable in his father's arms. They're perfect, Jonathan murmured, kissing both boys' foreheads. They're our children, Amanda said emotionally. It was the first time she referred to the babies as ours instead of mine. Jonathan felt there might be hope to rebuild their family. Liam finished nursing and fell asleep in Amanda's arms. The afternoon was coming to an end, and everyone was tired from the day's emotions. I think I should go, Jonathan said reluctantly. You all need to rest. You can stay a little longer, Amanda surprised him. They like having you here. Jonathan was moved by the invitation. He sat on the couch still holding Ethan and Noah, who were happy in their father's arms. Amanda, he said after a while, can I make a confession? Of course. I was afraid I wouldn't know how to love, Jonathan admitted. My father left us when I was a child, and I always thought I'd inherited that inability from him. Amanda looked at him with understanding. She finally grasped what had driven Jonathan to leave. But today, Jonathan continued, holding our children, I discovered love is instant. You don't have to learn to love, you just have to let it happen. That's exactly right, Amanda agreed. Loving them is the most natural thing in the world. And loving you? Jonathan asked hesitantly. Amanda stayed silent, processing the question. Jonathan, she finally said, let's focus on the boys for now. We'll figure out the rest in time. I understand, Jonathan accepted. They're the priority. Ethan started yawning again, clearly tired. Noah was already dozing in Jonathan's other arm. I think they want to sleep again, Amanda observed. Can I put them in their cribs? Jonathan asked. Of course. Jonathan carried both boys back to the nursery, carefully placing each in his crib. Ethan grabbed his blue teddy bear and settled in. Noah hugged his picture book and closed his eyes. Good night, my boys, Jonathan whispered. Daddy will be back tomorrow. Amanda placed Liam in his crib too, and all three babies settled in for another nap. They sleep a lot, Jonathan remarked. Babies need a lot of sleep to grow, Amanda explained. Thank goodness, because it's the only time I have to do anything else. What other things? Laundry, cleaning, cooking? Amanda sighed. The list never ends. I can help with that too, Jonathan offered. Do you know how to do laundry? Amanda laughed. No, but I can learn, Jonathan replied seriously. Amanda looked at him fondly. It was hard to believe this caring, attentive man was the same one who had run away 2 years earlier. All right, she agreed. Tomorrow you can help me with their routine. What time should I come? Jonathan asked eagerly. They wake up at 7, Amanda told him. If you want the full experience, come at 7:30. I'll be here, Jonathan promised. Are you sure? Amanda doubted. 7:30 is really early. I'm sure, Jonathan confirmed. I want to be part of everything. Amanda walked him to the door, still holding Liam, who was a lighter sleeper. Thank you for today, Jonathan said at the door. It was the best day of my life. It's just the beginning, Amanda replied. If you really want to be a father, you have a lot of work ahead of you. I'm ready, Jonathan declared. We'll see, Amanda smiled. See you tomorrow. Jonathan left the apartment with his heart full of new emotions. For the first time in a long while, he had a clear purpose in life, to be the best father possible for Ethan, Noah, and Liam. On his way home, he called his mother. Mum, how was meeting your grandsons? He asked. Son, it was magical, Mrs. Elizabeth replied emotionally. They're beautiful, smart, and affectionate. They're your boys through and through. I know, Jonathan smiled. I'm in love with them. And Amanda? Mrs. Elizabeth asked. How did things go between you? We're taking it slow, Jonathan explained. She agreed to give me a chance to be their father. The rest we'll figure out in time. That's the right way, Mrs. Elizabeth approved. First, you need to prove you can be a present father. That's exactly what I'll do, Jonathan promised. Mum, can I ask you something? Of course, son. Can you teach me how to take care of babies? Jonathan asked humbly. Like changing diapers, giving baths, those kinds of things. Mrs. Elizabeth was moved by her son's request. "Of course I can," she answered. "I'll teach you everything I know." "Thank you," Jonathan said, grateful for having such an understanding mother. "Jonathan," Mrs. Elizabeth said seriously, "don't ruin this second chance. Amanda and the boys deserve the best from you." "I know, Mom," Jonathan promised. "This time will be different." When he got home, Jonathan looked around his luxurious, empty penthouse. Suddenly, all that space felt cold and meaningless. What mattered now was in a small apartment in Astoria. He spent the night thinking about his sons, imagining waking up with them every morning, being part of their daily routine, watching them grow. It was terrifying and thrilling all at once. The next morning, Jonathan woke up at 6, eager to get the test results and spend the day with his boys. He showered quickly and headed to Amanda's apartment. At exactly 7:30, he rang the doorbell. Amanda opened the door still in her pajamas with Liam in her arms. "You actually came," she said, surprised. "I promised," Jonathan replied. "How can I help?" Amanda let him in. Ethan and Noah were already awake in their cribs, babbling to each other in a language only they understood. "They always do this when they wake up," Amanda explained. "They talk like little old men." "That's adorable," Jonathan commented, walking up to the cribs. "Hi, boys," he said softly. "Good morning." Ethan and Noah smiled when they saw him, stretching their little arms to be picked up. "They remembered you," Amanda observed. "That's great," Jonathan said, touched. "Can I hold them?" "Of course, but first we need to change their diapers." Amanda taught Jonathan how to change diapers, step by step. It was trickier than he'd imagined, especially with Ethan, who wouldn't stay still. "You have to be quick," Amanda instructed, "otherwise he'll wiggle away." Jonathan tried to follow her directions, but Ethan took advantage of a distracted moment to pee on him. "Welcome to fatherhood," Amanda laughed. "Happens to everyone." Jonathan cleaned himself up and tried again, this time with more success. "Congratulations," Amanda clapped. "First successful diaper change." "How many times a day do they do this?" Jonathan asked. "About 6 times each," Amanda calculated. "So, 18 diapers a day." Jonathan did the math quickly. It was far more work than he'd expected. "And that's just the beginning," Amanda continued. "There's also baths, feedings, playtime, naps." "I'm ready," Jonathan said firmly. Amanda prepared bottles for Ethan and Noah while Jonathan held them. Liam nursed directly from her. "Can you feed both of them at the same time?" Amanda asked. "I can try," Jonathan replied. With great difficulty and a few laughs, Jonathan managed to feed Ethan and Noah simultaneously. It was awkward, but it worked. "You're doing well for your first day," Amanda praised. "It's harder than it looks," Jonathan admitted. "That's why I get so tired," Amanda explained. "It's a full-time job with no breaks." Jonathan began to understand the weight of the responsibility Amanda had carried alone for 2 years. "Amanda, about the test results," he said. "What time can we pick them up?" "After 3 in the afternoon," she replied. "But I already know what the result will be." "So do I," Jonathan agreed. "But I want it to be official." After the baby's breakfast, Amanda showed Jonathan how to bathe them. It was a delicate process that required great care. "Ethan loves the water the most," Amanda explained as she bathed her son. "Noah is more timid, and Liam loves playing with rubber ducks." Jonathan watched every detail, memorizing each child's preferences. "Can I try bathing one of them?" he asked. "You can try with Noah," Amanda decided. "He's more cooperative." With Amanda supervising, Jonathan managed to bathe Noah without any major issues. The baby even seemed to enjoy his father's special attention. "Well done," Amanda applauded. "You're learning fast." "I have a good teacher," Jonathan smiled. The morning flew by with diapers, bottles, baths, and playtime. Jonathan was exhausted but happy. "How did you do this alone?" he asked, amazed. "You adapt," Amanda replied. "When you have no choice, you find strength you didn't know you had." At 2:30 in the afternoon, they headed to the lab to pick up the test results. The 3 babies were neatly arranged in a double stroller Jonathan had bought that morning. "You bought a stroller?" Amanda was surprised. I bought a few things, Jonathan confessed. Car seats, toys, clothes. Jonathan, you don't have to make up for everything with gifts, Amanda cautioned. I know, he answered, but I want them to have everything they need. At the lab, the nurse handed them the envelope with the results. Jonathan opened it with trembling hands. Positive for all three, he read aloud. 99% probability of paternity. Amanda smiled, though she already knew the outcome. Now it's official, she said. You're the father of Ethan, Noah, and Liam Reynolds. Reynolds Williams, Jonathan corrected. They can have both last names. Amanda was moved by the suggestion. It was a gesture of recognition and respect. They'll love having both last names, she agreed. Leaving the lab, Jonathan was euphoric. He was finally officially a father. Now we need to sort out the practical matters, Amanda said. Custody, child support, visitation. I don't want visitation, Jonathan declared. I want real shared custody. What do you mean? Amanda asked. I want them to spend half their time with me, half with you, Jonathan explained. I want to be a full-time dad. Amanda was surprised by the proposal. She hadn't expected Jonathan to want such deep involvement. We have to consider what's best for them, she said cautiously. Of course, Jonathan agreed. They're the priority. Let's talk to Jessica about this, Amanda decided. She can guide us legally. On the way back, Jonathan watched his children in the stroller. Ethan played with a new toy, Noah flipped through a fabric book, and Liam slept peacefully. They're so different, he remarked. And they'll become even more different as they grow, Amanda said. Each has their own unique personality. How do you give each one individual attention? Jonathan asked. It's a challenge, Amanda admitted. Sometimes one has to wait while I care for the other, but they're learning to share attention. Jonathan thought about how he could help give individual attention to each child. With two parents present, it would be easier to meet each one's specific needs. Amanda, he said, can I make a suggestion? What? How about we have dinner together tonight? Jonathan suggested. I can cook for you. You know how to cook? Amanda laughed. A few things, Jonathan replied modestly, and I can learn more. Okay, Amanda agreed, but nothing too fancy. They get fussy by the end of the day. Something simple then, Jonathan promised. Back at the apartment, Jonathan helped Amanda with the baby's afternoon routine. He changed diapers, gave bottles, and played with them on the living room floor. You're doing really well, Amanda praised. It feels more natural than I expected, Jonathan admitted. When you love someone, everything becomes easier. And do you love them? Amanda asked. Unconditionally, Jonathan answered without hesitation. It's a love I didn't even know existed. Ethan started crawling around the room, exploring everything. Noah preferred sitting and watching, while Liam wanted to be held. Ethan's the adventurer, Amanda explained. I have to keep an eye on him all the time. I can watch him, Jonathan offered, following Ethan around the room. It was funny to see the successful businessman crawling on the floor after a 1.5-year-old. You've changed a lot, Amanda remarked, watching the scene. The kids changed my perspective on everything, Jonathan explained. Now I understand what really matters in life. Ethan found an open drawer and tried to reach inside. Jonathan scooped him up before he could get hurt. Good reflexes, Amanda approved. You're developing fatherly instincts. It's amazing how instinctive it is, Jonathan agreed, seeing danger before even thinking. Noah started crying, wanting attention too. Amanda picked him up and sat on the couch. They get jealous when one gets more attention, she explained. How do you handle it when all three want attention at once? Jonathan asked. It's the biggest challenge, Amanda sighed. Sometimes I cry with them because I can't tend to everyone. Jonathan sat beside Amanda, still holding Ethan. Liam was quiet in his bouncer, watching everything. Now you don't have to go through this alone, he said. We're a team. A team? Amanda repeated. You, me, and our 3 boys, Jonathan smiled. A family. Amanda fell silent, processing Jonathan's words. The idea of family had felt like a distant dream for the past 2 years. Jonathan, she finally said, I need you to understand something. What? If you decide to leave again, it won't just hurt me, Amanda explained. Now they know you. They'll miss you. I'm not leaving, Jonathan vowed solemnly. I'll never walk away from you again. How can I be sure? Because now I know what unconditional love is, Jonathan replied, and because I'll spend the rest of my life proving to you that I've changed. Ethan yawned in his father's arms, clearly tired from the day's activities. Time for their afternoon nap, Amanda announced. They put all 3 babies to sleep, each in their crib with their comfort items. How long do they nap? Jonathan asked. About 2 hours, Amanda answered. That's when I catch up on other things. What if I cook while they sleep? Jonathan suggested. Are you sure? Absolutely, Jonathan confirmed. I want to take care of you too. Amanda showed Jonathan where the kitchen utensils and ingredients were. He decided to make something simple but thoughtful. Can I make pasta with tomato sauce? He asked. Perfect, Amanda agreed. It's something I like, and it's not too heavy. As Jonathan cooked, Amanda finally had a moment to relax. She sat on the couch and watched the father of her children working hard in the kitchen. Amanda, Jonathan called from the kitchen, can I ask you something? Of course. What did you miss the most during these 2 years? He asked. Amanda thought about her answer. Having someone to share decisions with, she replied. Every choice about the boys I had to make alone. It was too much responsibility. And now? Jonathan asked hopefully. Can I help with the decisions? You can, Amanda smiled. They're your children too. Dinner was ready when the babies woke from their nap. Ethan woke up in a good mood, Noah a little grumpy, and Liam wanting to be held. Each one wakes up differently, Amanda explained. Ethan always wakes up happy. Noah needs some time to wake up fully, and Liam wants cuddles. Jonathan picked up Noah and spoke softly to him until he calmed down. It was impressive how quickly he was learning to handle their different personalities. You really have a way with them, Amanda observed. They teach me, Jonathan replied. Every day I learn something new about them. During dinner, the babies played on the living room floor, while Jonathan and Amanda ate and talked. The food is great, Amanda praised. Thank you, Jonathan smiled. I want to learn to cook things you all like. You don't have to get everything perfect right away, Amanda reassured him. Being a father is a constant learning process. I know, Jonathan agreed, but I want to make up for lost time. Jonathan, stop talking about making up for things, Amanda said firmly. The past is over. What matters is the present and the future. You're right, Jonathan admitted. I'll focus on what I can do from now on. After dinner, Jonathan helped bathe the babies and put them to bed. It was amazing how much the nighttime routine helped calm them. Do they sleep through the night? Jonathan asked. Now they do, Amanda replied, but Liam still wakes up once to nurse. Can I stay to help with the nighttime feeding? Jonathan offered. Are you sure? Amanda hesitated. You have work early tomorrow. My children are more important than work, Jonathan declared. Amanda was surprised by his answer. Throughout their marriage, work had always been his priority. All right, she agreed. You can sleep on the couch. Thank you, Jonathan said, moved by the chance to spend the night with his children. In the early hours when Liam woke up crying, Jonathan got up with Amanda to help. You don't have to wake up, Amanda whispered. I want to help, Jonathan insisted. We're a team, remember? He held Liam while Amanda prepared the bottle. The baby calmed in his father's arms, recognizing his scent and voice. He really likes you, Amanda observed. And I love him so much, Jonathan replied, gazing tenderly at his son. After the feeding, Liam fell asleep quickly. Jonathan carefully placed him back in the crib so he wouldn't wake. You did really well, Amanda said softly. It's easier when there are 2 of us, Jonathan remarked. It is, Amanda agreed. Thank you for being here. Thank you for letting me be here, Jonathan replied. The next morning, Jonathan woke to the sound of the babies babbling to each other in their cribs. It was a sound he wanted to hear every day for the rest of his life. Good morning, family, he said as he entered the nursery. Ethan, Noah, and Liam smiled at him, stretching their little arms to be picked up. They're happy to see you, Amanda commented, appearing in the doorway. And I'm happy to be here, Jonathan replied, lifting Ethan into his arms. Jonathan, Amanda said hesitantly, I need to tell you something. What? He asked, concerned. Last night, After you fell asleep, I kept thinking, Amanda began. And I think, maybe we can try again. Jonathan froze, still holding Ethan. Try what? He asked, his heart racing. To be a family, Amanda said softly. A real one. Not just for the boys, but for us too. Jonathan was deeply moved. It was more than he had ever dreamed of. Are you sure? He asked. No, Amanda was honest. But seeing you with them, seeing how you've changed, I want to try. I love you, Amanda, Jonathan said with complete sincerity. I always have. And now I love you even more, seeing the incredible mother you've become. I love you too, Amanda admitted. That's why it hurt so much when you left. Ethan babbled something that sounded like Mama and Dada, as if he understood his parents' conversation. I think he approves, Amanda laughed through her tears. And I promise this time will be different, Jonathan said, still holding Ethan. You're my #1 priority. Noah and Liam also wanted attention, so Amanda picked up Noah while Jonathan shifted Ethan to his other arm to hold Liam too. Our family, Amanda said emotionally, looking at the 5 of them together. Our perfect family, Jonathan agreed. 3 months later, Jonathan had sold the penthouse and moved into a spacious house near Amanda's apartment. It had a backyard where the boys could play as they grew up. Amanda had quit 2 of her 3 jobs and gone back to school, fulfilling her long-time dream of studying education. Jonathan made sure to share all parenting responsibilities equally. Jonathan, Amanda said one Sunday morning, do you regret anything? Only not staying from the beginning, he replied, feeding Liam his bottle. But I can't change the past. What matters is we're all together now, Amanda smiled, playing with Ethan and Noah on the floor. Forever, Jonathan promised. This family will never be apart again. Ethan had started walking better and ran around the house chasing a ball. Noah was already saying a few words beyond Mama and Dada. Liam had begun crawling and exploring everything around him. They're growing up so fast, Amanda remarked. Every day is a new discovery, Jonathan agreed. Yesterday, Ethan tried opening the fridge by himself. Did he manage it? Amanda laughed. Almost, Jonathan chuckled. I had to put a safety lock on it. Mrs. Elizabeth visited the family every week, delighted to finally spend time with her grandchildren. She always brought toys and endless energy to play with them. You did the right thing, she told Jonathan and Amanda. These boys deserve a united family. I agree, Amanda replied. It was hard to trust again, but it was worth it. Jessica remained the family's lawyer, now handling the marriage documents for Amanda and Jonathan, who had decided to remarry. This time will be different, Jonathan promised during the proposal, because now I know what truly matters. I know, Amanda accepted. We'll build a beautiful family together. The wedding ceremony was simple, with only close family present. Ethan, Noah, and Liam were the ring bearers, dressed in matching outfits with different colors so they could be told apart. Now we're officially a family, Jonathan said during the vows. A family that's overcome every challenge, Amanda added. And we'll face whatever comes next, together, they promised in unison. Ethan started crying during the ceremony, followed by Noah and Liam in chorus, as if they wanted to actively participate in their parents' most important moment. They're happy too, Mrs. Elizabeth remarked, scooping up one of her grandsons. They know they have a complete family now, the officiant smiled. After the wedding, the family moved into an even bigger house with 4 bedrooms, 1 for the couple and 3 individual rooms for the children as they grew older. Each one will have their own space, Jonathan explained to the children, who obviously didn't understand but smiled anyway. But for now, they prefer staying all together, Amanda observed. The triplets had developed an incredibly strong bond. When one cried, the others worried. When one learned something new, they quickly taught their siblings. It's beautiful to see them caring for each other, Jonathan remarked. They'll always be each other's best friends, Amanda agreed. A year after their reunion, the family had settled into a happy and harmonious routine. Jonathan had completely restructured his business to be present full-time. Do you regret changing your routine so much? Amanda asked. Never, Jonathan answered firmly. My old life was empty. This one is full of love and purpose. Ethan, now 2.5, spoke in full sentences and was endlessly curious about everything. Noah preferred books and puzzles, showing signs of being more introverted. Liam was the most affectionate, always wanting to be held and kissed. Each one has such a distinct personality, Amanda noted, and they all inherited the best traits from their parents, Mrs. Elizabeth added proudly. Jonathan had become an exemplary father, attending every doctor's appointment, every developmental milestone, every important moment in his children's lives. "Daddy," Ethan said one day, "are you going away?" The question broke Jonathan's heart, and he knelt to his son's level. "Never again, my boy," he promised. "Daddy will always be here with you." "And Mommy too?" Noah asked. "Mommy and Daddy will take care of you forever," Amanda assured. "All together?" Liam asked in his tiny voice. "All together," Jonathan and Amanda replied in unison. It was a promise they would keep for the rest of their lives. End of story. Now tell me, do you believe someone can change so much for the love of their children? Have you lived or heard a similar story? Share your honest thoughts about Jonathan and Amanda in the comments. Do you think she made the right choice, giving him a second chance? I'd love to hear your experience. Thank you so much for following this heartwarming story.